Hello and welcome to the Flowbyte Endless Runner tutorial. This is what you'll have by the end of the video. So you can start by creating a new scene if you haven't done that already. Then also import your humanoid character model. Also just remember to switch your character to humanoid as it will be set to generic by default when you import it. Once you've done that, drag your character model into the scene. Then once your character's in the scene, we're just going to rename it to player. You can name this to whatever you like. The next step will be adding the player animator controller to the animator on the model. So just go into the model itself, add in player animator. Then the next thing we're going to add in is a character controller, and then followed by the FB player controls script. The player control script will be responsible for most of the game mechanics itself, such as like health, jumping, moving left and right, sliding, some particle effects for when you're boosting, so on and so forth. Now once you've added in those components, we're just going to have a quick look at the animator controller. These are specified states that are hard-coded into some of the codes, so you don't need to ever change the name of these states. However, you can change the animations within the states to whatever you like. So for example, you could go to Mixamo and download some fresh animations and add them in yourself, just remembering not to change the state names. Next thing to do is just go into the scene view, click on your player and just change the tag to player. If you haven't added a player tag already, do so and then switch it. Right, once all that's done, we're going to go to the player controls script, go into your player input and start filling that in. Now you can choose WASD or up and down, left and right arrows, or just any key combination you like. So next up we have the player health, the max health being the maximum amount of health the player can ever reach, the current health being current health in the moment. You can leave that at 0 as that will be set to the max health on start. Next up is the damage, and that's actually the damage received to the player. So we've set that as 1, which means you can get hit 4 times before your player dies. Now you could also set your max health to 100 and the damage to 25, which would be exactly the same thing. It's just whatever suits you. Then we also have the health up amount, and that is responsible for how much your player receives health when colliding with health pickups. So you can also set that to whatever amount you like. For now, we're just going to leave the health bar and damage particle. That's responsible for collision-based stuff, which is covered in a later video when you add in obstacles, when you've got to start dodging things and whatnot. Then for the player jump and swipe settings, so your jump power would be something that's up to you. We found 60 was a good amount to start with, but depending on your scene, that could be a little higher, a little lower. It's up to you. And then for the gravity, that's also something that just requires fine tuning. It's up to you as well, whatever looks good. The gravity mod will just be how fast your player falls once he's jumping. The swipe distance is responsible for your player moving left and right and how far he moves left and right. So in this case, if it's 4, it means he's going to move left 4 units or right 4 units. We then have the speed dodge, and the speed dodge is how fast he actually moves to the left or the right position or the middle position. And we found that 10 was a pretty good speed for that. Next up we have the player speed itself, how fast he'll move forward. So we have, for the player forward speed, we've set that to 5. That seems to be pretty good, but you can set that to whatever you like. The player max speed is how fast he'll reach without any sort of boost effect or anything like that, just naturally. And the acceleration speed set at 0.04, that's incrementally going up on update, up all the way up till it reaches its max speed, and then it will stop. Next up we have player shooting. This is optional. If you tick the box on, you'll be able to shoot. If you don't, it won't. The rate of fire, 0.3 seemed to be a nice amount, so you can continue and click it, but it's not constantly creating. Ammo count will be the amount that you have on you when you start or in the moment. And max ammo is the maximum amount of ammo you can ever reach. We then have the ammo amount itself, and that's responsible for actually adding ammunition to you when you hit an ammo pickup. You can also just set the shoot input to whatever you like. Most of the time it would be spacebar or mouse 0 for left mouse button, but it's up to you entirely. For the player muzzle, what you need to do is create an empty game object and put it roughly in the center and slightly in front of the character. This would be where the bullet's actually created from. Next thing, to just make life easier, name that to muzzle. And then we're going to add a create game object script as well as an audio source. Then once you've done that, go to your player model again, go down to the player control script where it says the player muzzle and drag in that game object. Once you've done that, go back to your muzzle and fill in the create game object areas. So for the spawn location, just drag in the muzzle itself. And then for the object to create, we want the player bullet. We've already created a prefab for that, so you can actually just drag that in and have a look in that. We'll explain that in a future video, how that all works. The bullet prefab will just be located in the Flowbyte folder within your assets. Just quickly find that and add that in. And once that's done, go back into your player control script. We're going to go through the boost section. The boost speed that's there, that's actually meant to be a private variable, so just ignore that for the time being. But the boost amount is the speed that you will go when you are boosting. So we've decided on 90, which is triple the speed of the player forward max speed. Then for the boost slowdown, that's 0.1. That's the rate in which it slows down whilst boosting. It will call 0.1 every frame until it gets back down to the player max speed. Then for the speed boost effect, that's pretty straightforward. That's just a matter of creating your own or using one of ours particle effects. We've got a specific one that you can just drag and drop in, the FBPS speed boost, followed by the trail. The trail is something that you can just attach to your player normally, but that component in there allows it so when your character dies, it'll turn off, it'll set inactive. The next part after the boost is the roll slide. The checkbox there is more of just a debug. However, the roll animation time is the time that your character will actually be sliding or rolling, whatever is up to you. And under scene management, we have the on death event. So when your character dies, you tend to want to be able to call things like maybe a restart menu or just to immediately restart. This is probably the most simple way that we could find to do this, just to quickly keep it versatile as well. So for example, what we're doing here, we're just adding another script called wait and destroy. We've set that to disabled and set the destroy time to 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever you like. We then go back into the on death event and find and drag that in and then set it to enabled within the on death event. So when your character dies, that script will become active after 10 seconds or whatever the time is. He'll destroy entirely and be out of the scene. You also have auto restart. If you tick this on, the on death events can be called, but you would need to make sure that you have enough time in the restart time below to compensate for that. Otherwise, it'll do it immediately, and you'll just, every time you die, you'll restart the scene and come back. However, there is no actual restart function set in right now. That'll be covered in a later video. And finally, we've just got the sounds for the player controller. Just adjust them accordingly. Jump for jump, slide for slide. You can choose whatever you like. There's plenty of sites to get free sound effects from. And once that's done, we'll save your scene. And now I'm just going to add a texture to the model because there's no texture on there at the moment. If you have the same issue, create a material, add the texture, drag and drop it onto the player. You can also make him a prefab if you like, but we're going to do that afterwards. What we're doing now is just creating a cube to demonstrate the player and how he's actually running, and he's running forward. So this cube here is just temporary, so we're just going to set the Z scale to quite large because that's the direction you're running in. The X scale can be 12, that tends to be nice with the slide amount of 4, and the Y can afford to just be like 1. It can be shorter or longer if you like, you're not really going to see it. Once the character's in and the block's ready, you click on your camera. We're just going to set that up. You need to add a simple script called camera control. The camera control script will follow the player, and you just position the camera anywhere in the world space and it will follow from that position accordingly. You can also drag and drop the character where it says look at in that script, but it does it naturally as well as it's feeding from the player tag. And finally, with this character, you could press play right now, but you'll find very quickly that you'll fall off the edge. So we're just going to scale it up on the Z axis more on the cube. And you'll find that when you press play, you'll have your lanes, your jumping, your shooting, your sliding, should all be functioning. Finally, for this video, we're just quickly refining the last bit of the camera. We're just pulling it up and angling it down so it's a little bit more like an endless runner game. This is completely up to you, whatever preference you want. Once that's done, that concludes the first part of this video tutorial series with the endless runner. Congratulations.